Vincent Bradley, we've been hearing a lot lately about these so-called unicorns, which are pre-IPO companies with valuations over $1 billion. So is this the sign of a bubble? Is this dangerous, what we're seeing now?
Yeah, so we have 125 of them to date that are valued at over $1 billion. We have companies like Uber that are valued at nearly $50 billion now. I don't want to say it's a sign of a bubble, but what I will say is that there's a lot of companies that are potentially not necessarily a great investment from my perspective. Market's a little frothy, access to capital is easy. A lot of these companies are operating on very small margins. They're growing like crazy, but every customer they add, they're losing a little bit of money on. And because venture capital is so frothy right now, the market's rich, they're able to access a lot of capital because their user growth is strong. But I am concerned with the fact that they have small margins. So bubble, maybe a little bit of a bubble forming.
All right, so because of the volatility we've been seeing in the stock market, you think a lot of these unicorn CEOs are getting a little bit nervous about being able to go public at some point?
Yes and no. There's some very, very, very innovative companies. You have an Uber that has really disrupted the taxi industry and the one-day car rental industry. You have an Airbnb that has almost a million hotel rooms that they're serving a day now. Companies like that are built on innovation. They're making real money. They absolutely could IPO tomorrow and do very well. There's a lot of companies, though, that I think would have trouble. And again, it comes back to not strong financials.
All right, can you talk about some of the companies you think are going to have trouble? Because it seems like you know which ones you like, but which are the ones that people should avoid if they're given the opportunity to invest in them?
I got to be careful because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and there's some very innovative companies, but I look at a business like Postmates, which is incredibly innovative and it services a lot of people, but they're operating on very tight margins, and that would concern me. There's a lot of businesses within the food delivery space where they've done some very innovative things, but again, there's a lot of competition, and what separates them from their competitors is very small, and that's always worrisome. If you can't, there's a great investor, Peter Thiel, who says, look for a business that can build a monopoly. And if you can't build a monopoly, it's going to be very difficult with customer acquisition and marketing costs, because if you have lots of competitors, very quickly the business becomes very expensive, and we're seeing that in the food space. And so these billion-dollar companies in the food space and the food delivery space worry me.
But we've seen this before. A lot of these companies tried this during the earlier tech bubble, and they weren't able to do it. So what makes them think they can do it now?
What scares me the most is that a lot of the businesses that scare me today, they existed 15 years ago. Blue Apron existed 15 years ago. Instacart existed 15 years ago. I'm not saying these aren't good businesses today and they're not going to do well, but history repeats itself.
Or at least it certainly rhymes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about companies that are publicly traded. So which companies do you like in the publicly traded tech market? What do you like?
Yeah, so I look at industries and I look at innovation. I look at motifs that are exciting to me. And I think one of the biggest impacts in the next 10 to 15 years is going to be driverless vehicles. And so I look at a company like Google and Tesla and Apple, which now has almost 1,000 people working in the Titan program, as incredibly exciting. We're talking about an 80% reduction in vehicles because people aren't going to need to be able to own vehicles. They're going to crowdsource them. We're not going to have parking garages anymore. We're not going to have street cops. I look at Apple to do something very innovative. I look at Google because they're leading the driverless vehicle technology, and then the fact that Tesla already has figured out how to produce vehicles at a mass scale is also very exciting. Now, Tesla might be losing money today every vehicle they sell, but they've created an incredible vehicle. They're now proving that they can make number 2 and number 3 in their lines, and it's exciting.
All right, we're going to keep watching Tesla, of course.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Awesome to be here.
And thank you for watching The Street.